I was alone in my grandfather's old cabin, 3 hours from the nearest town, when I heard my brother calling my name from the woods behind the house. "Michael, Michael, I need help. Please come outside." The voice was perfect, every inflection, every tone, exactly how Danny sounded when he was scared. There was just one problem. My brother Danny died in a car accident 3 years ago, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how this started, and how I learned that some things in the desert don't stay buried. Welcome to Skinwalker Stories, a series documenting true encounters with one of the most feared creatures in Native American folklore. I'm mrgrimmor, and over the past 2 years, I've collected dozens of accounts from people who've experienced something that defies explanation, something that shouldn't exist, but does. This is Volume 1. If these stories disturb you, I promise, there's plenty more where this came from. Tonight you'll hear 3 encounters, 3 people who came face to face with a skinwalker and lived to tell about it. Let's begin. Our first story comes from Marcus, a long-haul trucker who's driven through the Southwest for 15 years. He's seen his share of strange things on lonely highways at 3 a.m., but nothing prepared him for what happened on Route 191, just south of the Arizona-Utah border. It was October 2019. Marcus was hauling freight from Phoenix to Moab, running behind schedule. He'd taken the scenic route through Navajo Nation to avoid highway construction, which meant long stretches of absolute darkness between towns. Around 2:30 a.m., somewhere between Chinle and Mexican Water, his headlights caught something on the shoulder. At first, I thought it was a hitchhiker. You see them sometimes out there, Navajo folks trying to get between reservations, usually during the day. But this was the middle of the night, middle of nowhere. The figure was standing perfectly still, facing the road. Tall, maybe 6.5 feet, wearing what looked like a dark jacket and jeans. As I got closer, maybe 50 yards away, I could see it was a man. Or shaped like a man. I wasn't going to stop. Company policy, and honestly, something felt wrong. But as I passed, doing about 65, I glanced in my side mirror. The figure was running behind my truck. Not jogging, not sprinting like a person would. It was keeping pace at 65 miles per hour. Its legs were moving, but wrong. Too long, too fluid, like it was gliding more than running. I pushed the accelerator, 70 miles per hour, then 75. It kept pace. I could see it clearly in my mirror now, lit by my taillights. The face was all wrong, too long. The mouth was open, but not like it was breathing hard, just open, like a dog panting, but the jaw was too wide. The eyes reflected in my lights. Not like a person's eyes, like an animal's, that bright greenish-yellow shine you see when headlights catch a deer or coyote on the road. But these eyes were higher up, human height, and they never blinked. I was gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Then, as I crested a hill and saw the lights of Mexican Water in the distance, I checked my mirror again. It was gone. Just vanished. Nothing on the road behind me. I checked both mirrors, even craned my neck to look back through the cab window. Empty highway, like it had never been there at all. I pulled over at the first gas station, hands shaking so bad I could barely hold my coffee cup. I must have looked like hell, because the attendant, an older Navajo man, took one look at me and asked if I'd seen something on 191. I didn't want to say it out loud, didn't want to sound crazy, but I described what happened, the figure, the impossible speed, the way it moved. He just nodded, didn't seem surprised at all, didn't even seem concerned. "You're lucky," he said, pouring me more coffee without me asking. It was just curious. When they're hunting, they don't stay behind you. They get in front. I asked him what he meant. He just shook his head and told me to drive safe. I've thought about that phrase a lot since then. They get in front. What does that mean? Do they wait on the road ahead? Do they somehow appear inside your vehicle? I don't know, and I don't want to find out. Marcus still drives that route, but never at night, and never alone. He told me one more thing before we ended our call. About a week after his encounter, he was talking to another trucker at a rest stop. The guy mentioned seeing a hitchhiker on 191 around the same area. Tall guy, the trucker said. Weird thing was, I passed him going south around midnight. Then 3 hours later, heading back north, I saw the same guy, same spot, same position, standing there like he'd never moved. Our second story takes place in the fall of 2021 in the Chusca Mountains along the New Mexico-Arizona border. This comes from Sarah, a wildlife photographer who was documenting elk migration patterns. Sarah had camped in remote areas dozens of times. She knew the sounds of the forest, every bird call, every animal movement. She knew the difference between a curious deer and a stalking mountain lion, but she'd never heard anything like what visited her camp that night. I'd set up camp about a quarter mile from the nearest trail, near a small creek. It was a perfect spot, secluded, good sight lines, close to where the elk had been spotted. I'd been there 2 nights already without incident. The third night, I was in my tent reviewing photos on my laptop when I heard it. Sarah. My name, clear as day, coming from the tree line about 30 yards away. It was my mom's voice. My mom lives in Ohio. There's no way she'd be in the middle of the New Mexico wilderness at 11 p.m. But the voice was perfect. Her tone, her inflection, even the slight rasp she gets when she's tired. Sarah, honey, I need help. Can you come here? Every instinct in my body screamed at me not to respond. I turned off my laptop, plunging the tent into darkness, and stayed completely silent. Sarah, please. I'm hurt. I can't walk. Please come help me. The voice was closer now. Maybe 20 yards, moving along the tree line, circling my camp. Here's the thing that made my blood run cold. My mom would never call me honey. She's called me sweetheart my entire life. Never honey. Not once. Whatever was out there had my mom's voice, but it didn't know her. Sarah, I know you can hear me. Why won't you help your mother? The voice was right outside my tent now. I could hear breathing, heavy, wet, like something with a respiratory infection. But the voice itself was still perfect. Still my mom. Then it changed tactics. Sarah Elizabeth Morrison, my full name. Come out now. The tone had shifted. Still my mom's voice, but flat, emotionless, like a recording being played back. I sat there in complete darkness, not moving, barely breathing. My phone was in my hand, no signal, but at least I had a flashlight if I needed it. My other hand gripped my hunting knife so hard I could feel the texture of the handle imprinted into my palm. The voice kept calling, sometimes pleading, sometimes angry. Sometimes it would mimic my mom crying, sobbing about how much she missed me, how she'd come all this way to see me. Once it went silent for almost 15 minutes, and I thought maybe it had left. I was just starting to relax when I heard something else. My own voice. Hello? Is someone there? It was me. My voice calling out from the darkness, like a recording of me from earlier in the evening when I'd heard a noise and checked the perimeter. Then my mom's voice again. Sarah, I found her. She's right here with me. Everything's okay now. My voice responded, Oh, thank God. I was so worried. A conversation between 2 versions of me and my mother happening outside my tent. Both voices perfect, both completely wrong. I realized then what it was doing. It was testing, trying different combinations, different scenarios, seeing if anything would make me open that tent flap. Sarah, Now it was my dad's voice. My dad, who I hadn't spoken to in 5 years after a bitter falling out. "Sarah, I'm sorry for everything. Can we please talk?" Even knowing what it was, hearing those words in my father's voice made tears spring to my eyes. This thing was using my deepest wounds, my strongest emotions, as bait. Around 3 a.m., it finally stopped. The forest went completely silent. No crickets, no wind, nothing. That absence of sound was somehow worse than the voice. The silence felt predatory, like the whole forest was holding its breath. I waited until sunrise, watching the tent fabric slowly change from black to gray to pale blue. When I finally unzipped my tent, my hands were cramping from gripping the knife all night. There were tracks outside my tent, not human, not animal, something in between. The prints were roughly human-shaped but too large, with claw marks at the toes. They circled my tent completely, sometimes coming within inches of the fabric. In one spot, right by the entrance, there was a depression in the dirt, like something had crouched there for a long time, watching, waiting. I packed up in less than 10 minutes and hiked straight back to my car. I've been camping probably 100 times since childhood, and I've never felt unsafe in the wilderness. Not until that night. Sarah reported the incident to local park rangers. They took her statement, noted the location, and told her that several other campers had reported similar experiences in that area over the past 2 years. Their advice: don't camp alone in that section of the Chuskas, and if you hear someone calling your name in the dark, don't answer. Our final story brings us back to where we started, to Michael and his grandfather's cabin, and the voice of his dead brother calling from the woods. This happened in March of 2023 in the high desert of northeastern Arizona. Michael had inherited his grandfather's property the previous year, 40 acres of scrubland with a small, aging cabin that hadn't been used in over a decade. He'd driven out to assess the property, determine what repairs were needed, maybe spend a few nights reconnecting with a place that held so many childhood memories. The first day was fine. I cleaned out the cabin, got the generator running, checked the well. The place was in rough shape, but nothing that couldn't be fixed. I remember feeling peaceful, standing on the porch at sunset, watching the desert turn gold and red. That night, I heard the coyotes. They were close, closer than I'd ever heard them before. The howling had a strange quality to it, almost like they were distressed, warning each other about something. Around 10 p.m., they went silent. The sudden absence of sound woke me from a half-sleep. I lay there in my sleeping bag, listening to absolutely nothing. No insects, no wind, just silence. Then I heard my brother's voice. "Michael." It was coming from the back of the cabin, from the direction of the wash that ran through the property. Distant, but clear. "Michael, I need help. Please come outside." My brother Danny died 3 years ago. Car accident on I-40, just outside Flagstaff. I was the one who identified his body, but that was his voice. I sat up, heart pounding. Every rational part of my brain knew it couldn't be him. But hearing his voice the exact way he used to sound when he was scared or hurt. "Michael, please. It's dark out here. I can't find my way back." Back from where? Back from the dead? I grabbed my flashlight and my grandfather's old revolver from the kitchen. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from the absolute wrongness of the situation. I went to the back window and looked out. The flashlight cut through the darkness, illuminating the scrub brush and rock formations. Nothing moved. "Why won't you help me?" Danny's voice was closer now, maybe 30 feet from the cabin. "I'm your brother. I'm scared. Michael, please." I almost opened the door. I actually had my hand on the knob, because what if What if somehow, impossibly, it really was him? What if he'd been out there all this time, lost, needing me? Then the voice said something that stopped me cold. "Come outside, Michael. Come find me like we used to play hide and seek." We never played hide and seek, not once. Danny was 7 years older than me. By the time I was old enough for those games, he was a teenager who wanted nothing to do with his kid brother. Whatever was out there wearing my brother's voice didn't know him, didn't know us. Michael. The voice was right outside the back door now. I could hear something moving on the porch. Footsteps, but wrong. Too light for a man Danny's size. Almost delicate. "I can smell you in there. I can hear your heart beating. Why are you hiding from me?" The voice had changed. Still Danny's tone, but the words were all wrong. Danny would never say things like that. I backed away from the door, gun raised, and repositioned myself in the corner of the room with a clear view of both entrances. Then it started testing the door, not knocking, not trying the handle, just pushing. Rhythmic pressure, like it was testing the strength of the wood. The door creaked with each push, and I watched the frame flex slightly. "Let me in, Michael. It's cold out here. I just want to come home." The pushing stopped. I waited, gun trained on the door, barely breathing. Then I heard it at the front door. Same rhythmic pushing, then the windows, both of them, simultaneously, like it was moving around the entire cabin at once, testing every entry point, or like there was more than one of them. "Michael, Michael, Michael." The voice was coming from every direction now, front, back, both sides, all around the cabin, all in perfect unison, like an echo, but there was nothing out there for sound to bounce off of. I don't know how long it lasted. Felt like hours. The voice kept calling, kept pushing at the doors and windows, kept using phrases that were almost right but just slightly wrong. At one point it said, "Remember when Dad used to take us fishing at the lake? Those were good times, weren't they, Michael? Our father left when I was 3. We never went fishing with him, not once." This thing was pulling from some kind of generic memory bank, constructing a fake brother from pieces of other people's experiences. Just before dawn, I heard something else. Scratching. On the roof. Whatever it was climbed up there and scraped its claws across the metal roofing, back and forth, back and forth. The sound was unbearable, like nails on a chalkboard amplified 100 times. Then, just as the first light appeared on the horizon, it stopped. I waited an hour after sunrise before I opened the door. The morning was beautiful. Clear sky, birds singing, gentle breeze, like the night had never happened. But there were marks, deep scratches around both door frames, like something had tried to claw its way in, dents in the metal window frames from repeated impacts, and on the roof, long gouges in the sheet metal, but no footprints, no tracks, nothing to indicate what had made those marks. I packed my truck and left within an hour. I haven't been back since. Michael sold the property 6 months later. He didn't mention his experience to the buyers, and he's wrestled with that guilt ever since. But he also knows they probably wouldn't have believed him. Before he left that morning, he found something his grandfather had left behind. A journal tucked in a drawer in the cabin's only bedroom. The last entry, dated 15 years earlier, read simply, "It knows all their voices now. I can't come back here anymore. It sounds too much like Sarah, too much like Daniel, too much like everyone I've lost. It's learning, and it's hungry, and I'm afraid one night I'll be weak enough to open the door." Michael never knew his grandfather had a sister named Sarah who died young, or that his middle name, Daniel, came from his grandfather's best friend who passed in the Korean War. The thing in the desert had been collecting voices for a very long time, and it was still waiting. This has been Volume 1 of Skinwalker Stories. If you want to hear more, let me know in the comments. Trust me, I have plenty more accounts. But you have to mangle the like button.